I'm Sharon Mackless at IDG, here with episode 62 of Do More with R. Get ready for GitHub Copilot and start writing R code in Visual Studio Code. If you're a happy RStudio user, you may never have had the urge to try another editor for R or even for Python. But if you want to try GitHub's new Copilot project someday, once access expands, you'll need to write your code in Microsoft's VS Code, because Copilot is only available in that editor. Not surprising, since Microsoft owns GitHub. Copilot uses AI to suggest lines of code as you work, as you can see here. It's not optimized for R, but David Smith at Microsoft tweeted a brief demo showing that the Copilot beta does indeed know R syntax and can suggest R code. So let's see how to write and run R in Visual Studio Code. Unfortunately, VS Code isn't quite as easy to set up as RStudio, but we can go through it step by step. So step one, obviously, is downloading VS Code. You can get it at code.visualstudio.com/download. VS Code is free and available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. Install it like any other software package. The important thing for beginners to know about VS Code is that it's modular. Documentation says it can support hundreds of programming languages and lots of other things like Docker. But that would make for a pretty bloated piece of software if all those things were included in a basic installation right out of the box. Instead, you need to add the modules you want to optimize VS Code for you, and for R in this case. So for R, that means a few extra installations and tweaking a couple of settings. So I've already downloaded and installed VS Code. And here's what an opening screen might look like. On the left is an activity navigation, this here. You can click this icon with the 4 squares to search for extensions. I've already got a bunch installed, but let's pretend I didn't. And I'm searching for R language. If you search just for R, that'll bring back a lot of results you don't want. Even this does. I'll choose this top result, R 2.0.0, which also happens to be the one that David Smith recommended when I asked him about it. Here you can see I've already installed it, and I've got buttons to disable or uninstall. But if I needed to install it, there would be a button I would click for install, and it's very easy and quick to install. Now, it's important to read this usage area here for any of the things that you install for VS Code, because it's going to tell you some of the things you might need to do in addition to just installing this. Okay, we need base R, we've got that. This says the settings it fixes. And then we've got some details, basic usage. These are some of the things you want to know, but we'll go through some of this stuff, not to worry. I also read the project's GitHub page and its wiki to see what else I might want to add to improve my R experience. The details page suggests using the Radian terminal, which is not a VS Code extension at all, but an application written in Python. That means Python has to be on your system in order for Radian to run. I already have Python and the Conda package manager installed on my Mac, so I used the suggested Conda install command for Radian. There's also a pip install for those who use that popular Python package manager. If you want easy instructions for Python installation for R users, head to the URL on our screen. There are a couple of other recommended installations for this extension: Language Server and VS Code R LSP. Now, Language Server is a regular R package. I can go back to RStudio or an R terminal and install that the usual way with install.packages language server. But the R extensions wiki also recommends installing 2 other R packages, JSONLite and RLang. I already have those on my system, but you want to make sure you do too before firing up VS Code for R. RLSP is another VS Code extension. I can either search for it here in my Visual Code Studio window and install it that way. Or I can look for it on the web. Let's take a look here. And there'll be an install button right on the web page. That's another handy way to do it. You can click that. Yes, allow. And it pops up right in VS Code. Again, I've already installed it, but there would be an install button here that I would click to install it. Now, my original R extension usage page said that to use the Radian console, I need to enable config r.bracketed paste. What that means is that I need to go into VS Code settings and turn that setting on. The easy way to muck around with VS Code settings is to open up the UI and see if the setting I want is in there. To do that, I would go to either File, Preferences, Settings on Windows, or Code Preferences Settings on a Mac. I can then search for bracketed paste. And here's where I'd either enable, or it's already enabled. I would check to disable and check again to enable. You can also get to the settings user interface using VS Code's command palette. Command palette is a very handy way of accessing all sorts of VS Code capabilities by typing instead of menu point and click. Most software IDEs have them, and they're good to get to know. In VS Code, you can pull it up either with the F1 key or the key combination Control-Shift-P on Windows or Command-Shift-P on Mac. For settings, start typing Open Settings. And you can see there's a choice to either open the user interface or you can open the underlying JSON file if you're feeling adventurous. Okay, the documentation mentioned a couple of other settings. One is to enable R Session Watcher. Let's try that. R Session Watcher. So you can see I've already enabled it. If yours isn't, you can click to enable. The other setting I turned on was R Always Use Active Terminal. This always sends code to an active terminal, not necessarily an R terminal, instead of launching a new R terminal each time you need one. This happened to solve a problem I was running into on my Mac, so I enabled this. Now that means at the start of each R VS Code session, I need to open a regular non-R terminal and then type Radian into the regular terminal before trying to run my R code. You'll see this in a moment. So as you can see, this is a bit more complicated to set up than the one-and-done RStudio installation. You may want to think of it as being a little like first installing plain base R, and then how many R packages you also install on top of that brand new basic R installation. Okay, let's finally write some R. I remember that the extension page said I should open a folder that has an R source file because it won't work well if I just open a file. So let me open my test folder by going to File, Add Folder to Workspace, and I'm going to use my VS Code test folder. Let's get rid of the settings here. Once I do that, I can use the Explorer icon at the top of my left side activity navigation bar, and I can see all the files in here. To save a little typing time, I have a simple test R file called test.r, which I'll open now. And now one more thing to set up on my session. I want to open a regular non-R terminal, which I can do go Terminal, New Terminal, and then launch my Radian R terminal by typing Radian. That was pretty easy, and I'm ready to go. I can run a line of code or several lines I've selected with Control-Enter on Windows or Command-Enter on Mac. That's pretty similar to RStudio. Let's print my system date, system time. I can load a library. Now, help is a little different than RStudio. Using the help or question mark functions isn't quite as elegant in my opinion. Let's see help package ggplot. So you do get the help. It's not in a separate pane. It's in your same terminal. And once you've finished with help, you need to quit out of it with Q. It looks more like Unix help than what you may be used to if you're a regular RStudio user. However, if you hover over a function, you'll get some help information without having to type anything, which is pretty convenient. The hover works for variables also. Let me create a variable called mySum, just 3 plus 4. Not very interesting. I can print the value. But now if I go further down in my file and hover over mySum, it shows me what the definition of that variable was. That's pretty cool. You can preview R graphics in VS Code. Let me do a fake data frame here. And I'll make a ggplot with it. And now let's view that. And there it is. Now, if you look carefully at the code here, let's get this out of the way. You may see something else cool. You see the line here, the geom bar line here, where I include the color name black and the color hex code for the fill. See these little boxes here? Those actually show the color that I'm selecting. And it's also a color picker. So if I click on it, I can use that to pick any other color. I can choose green, select a green. The hex automatically changed here now to green, and I can run that. And now here's my same graph with the new color. There's a ton more involved in VS Code, but I want to just add one last point because I can't use a code editor without code snippets. Snippets are stored code blocks that are easy to reuse by typing the snippet's abbreviation. There are included R snippets with this VS Code extension, but you can also create your own. The first time I went to Code Preferences, User Snippets, I scrolled down here and picked R, and it created an r.json file. Now I already have an R snippets file, and I can open it and edit it, adding my own snippets. So here's the snippet syntax right here. Snippet title in quotation marks, followed by a colon, and then braces. Within the braces, in JSON format, you define a prefix, which is what you type to trigger the snippet, body, which is the actual R code in the snippet, and an optional description. You can see my basic bar plot with blue bars right here. The title, what I type to trigger the snippet, the actual snippet code, and an optional description. I use my own convention, starting all my ggplot snippets with my_g_. That's just my own choice. The $ braces here, $braces1 my data, 2 my xcol, and so on, are actually snippet variables that can be filled in via tab completion. So let me show you by invoking the snippet. Let me go back to test R. If I start typing my_g_, you'll see I have a couple of choices here. I'm going to pick my bar plot one. And now this first one, I want to pick my data frame, which is my df. Then when I hit tab, it pops to the next variable, which is cat for x. Tab again, values for y. Now if I run this code, hopefully I'll get my graph back with my blue bars. And there it is. Now RStudio has code snippets as well. Both code editors let you see available snippets when you start to type the snippet abbreviations. VS Code also lets you see a complete list of your snippets with the insert snippet command from the command palette. F1 for my palette. Then start typing insert snippet. When I click on that, I get the list here, and you can see my optional description. Click on it, and it pops in. I don't actually want it there. It pops in where my cursor is. Let me do that again. F1, insert snippet. So my verdict here, VS Code has some very useful features, and it might be worth using for certain projects. I'll probably still stick mostly with RStudio for now, though, especially for R specific tasks like creating R Markdown documents and Shiny apps. But now I'm ready to try out GitHub Copilot whenever I get access. And you will be too. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. For more R tips, head to the Do More with R page at bit.ly/DoMoreWithR, all lowercase except for the R. You can also find the Do More with R playlist on YouTube's IDG Tech Talk channel, where you can subscribe so you never miss an episode. Hope to see you next time. Stay healthy and safe, everyone.